running around on stage with the Tesla stock price where the stock price had gone in half, and he was overjoyed. What an evil thing to do! What a creep! What a jerk! Like who derives joy?
The Tesla Cybertruck was supposed to be a symbol of a new era, an uncompromising off-road vehicle with a bulletproof body and flawless performance, capable of becoming a true legend in the market. An electric SUV that promised to shatter conventional notions of what future technology means. But when it was suddenly declared illegal in the UK, the shock wasn't limited to that incident. With bans in Europe and Asia and certification blocked in the US and other continents, Tesla faced an unexpected storm that called its global ambitions into question. How did a vehicle that was causing such excitement on one side of the ocean become so unwelcome on the other? And more importantly, what is behind this ban? Is it simply a matter of safety, or has Tesla accidentally exposed cracks in the system that no one was prepared for?
Teslas are being torched across the country. Dealerships shot up and set on fire. Spray paint to vandalize and make a statement. People in Southern California are getting notes on their Teslas, calling them complicit Nazis for owning electric cars.
When Elon Musk unveiled this futuristic SUV on stage in 2019, everyone gasped in awe. The Cybertruck's arrival was like a bolt from the blue. It promised not just an SUV, but a vehicle that could change the entire industry in an instant. From the moment pre-orders opened, thousands of cars were reserved and Tesla began to build its strategy on these promises. But something went wrong.
I mean, the things that he's doing is not trying to make America better. He's ruining our infrastructure, every department in our government he's ruining, and he's right now destroying our economy. He's taken away all of our allies. We're a pariah in the world.
But as production was gaining momentum, and with it, questions arose. Did Tesla have permission to sell in Europe, Asia, or other regions? Faced with local standards, the lack of necessary certifications became a stumbling block. What seemed like a successful and decisive step into the future crashed into the reefs of the old system. The denial of sales permits was not just a delay, it was the complete destruction of Tesla's dream of a global empire.
Well, this feels more like a Tesla-only story when you look at just this fall in EV sales for them, that they're suffering across Europe, down 45% in January. The wider EV market in Europe up 37%, so rivals are catching up and performing.
How did this ultimately affect the company's image? What lies behind what many call political rejection? Why does each new ban only accelerate the decline of all of Tesla's ambitions? Join us to find out how one car, by refusing global standardization, led to dramatic consequences for an entire industry. How could certification and standardization issues affect the company's future? The answers are right here.
Outperforming as well in some cases, doing better than Tesla. And you just have to think, how much more is this a sustained issue for Tesla going forward, given the fact that you have Elon Musk, who's been very forthright in his opinions, particularly weighing in on politics, particularly in Europe. We've just had the European elections, which Musk has been very focused on. But across the piece, when you look at the performance for Tesla in Europe, it's not just in small countries. A lot of countries where Tesla has been performing badly, including in Germany, in the UK, where it has been lagging, and Spain as well.
When Tesla unveiled its Cybertruck in 2019, the company seemed on the verge of a new era in the automotive industry. This car didn't just attract attention, it blew up the internet. Designed with the needs of off-road vehicles and electric vehicles in mind, the Cybertruck was unique in its design, promising to be not only revolutionary, but also completely indestructible. Its appearance, which was both admired and puzzled, with its sharp angles, thick steel armor, and inimitable shape, was like a glimpse into the future. However, all the promises and global fame were threatened when, without warning and for unclear reasons, this SUV was declared illegal in the UK and many European countries. This was not a random glitch, but the beginning of Tesla's battle with global safety standards and regulatory requirements that seem to have been ignored or underestimated.
371. Most were saying 350 to 360. Now they're coming in at 336,068. Production of 362, 615. So for some point of reference here, you're going back to Q2, maybe Q1 of 2022 in terms of the last time that they had production this or deliveries this low for one quarter. So again, Tesla deliveries worse than expected at just over 336,000 deliveries in the first quarter. Guys, I'll send it back to you.
That's horrible. Can I just ask Phil, how about the Cybertruck? How's that doing? You got a little inventory there in the Cybertruck?
In the first few days after its launch, the Cybertruck received more than 250,000 pre-orders, and by the time production began, that number had risen to around 1.9 million. It was one of the most successful and anticipated car launches in history, and it seemed that Tesla would easily take the lead in the new electric SUV segment with this vehicle. But what happened next came as a surprise to many. After the first cars began arriving in Europe, official statements were issued without any prior warning that the model did not meet strict safety and environmental standards in a number of countries, including the UK. As it turned out, despite all its outward power and reliability, the Cybertruck itself was not certified for sale on European roads. The reason was a simple fact. It lacked a certificate of conformity, without which no vehicle can be registered or insured for use in EU countries. But what is most surprising is that Tesla, despite its reputation as an innovator, did not pay enough attention to this issue. While the company was busy developing a futuristic design and improving battery technology, it neglected the need to comply with international standards required for vehicle certification. As Elon Musk himself admitted, this was a conscious decision, as Tesla did not want to water down the car's design by making it more standardized for different markets. Musk said that creating a universal version of the car for all countries would make it less attractive and undermine the Cybertruck's uniqueness. However, according to experts, this conscious choice turned out to be a catastrophic mistake. While Tesla hoped for success in the American and Chinese markets, Europe, with its strict environmental and safety requirements, was not ready to accept the car in its current form.
That's from the European Automobile Manufacturers Association. People just choosing with their wallets to not buy Teslas because of that Musk-Trump association. And actually here in London, an activist group called Everyone Hates Elon actually have been hacking bus stop signs with posters. I actually passed one yesterday. At first I wasn't quite sure what was happening, but it said the words 0 to 1939 in 3 seconds. Illusion here, 0 to 60 in like 3 seconds or something. But this poster was alluding to the start of World War II, and the image was of Musk giving that hand salute that we saw at Trump's inauguration that many have attacked as a Nazi gesture. Musk, though, has neither admitted or denied what he was doing. But we're seeing the knock-on effect of that anti-Musk anger across Europe and in terms of sales.
When the first Cybertrucks were brought to the UK, the problems became immediately apparent. The anticipated launch turned into a legal disaster. One of the first owners, who decided to circumvent the system and register his model through importers, was refused registration for the vehicle. The car was detained and soon confiscated because it did not have a key document, a certificate of conformity. The car had not even hit the road when, on the same day, lawsuits began to be filed against it, and the police announced the impeachment of the car. As a result, the owner not only had the car returned, but was also required to pay fines, and all rumors about special permits for such unique cars were publicly denied. It soon became clear that Tesla, like other car manufacturers, had to obtain this certificate, regardless of the uniqueness of the design and ambition. The problem became even more serious when all this attracted the attention of the media. A scandal erupted. The public was divided into two camps. Some supported Tesla and its desire to break the rules for the sake of innovation, while others saw this as a threat to safety. And this is where the second wave of the problem began. Fierce resistance from regulators in other European countries. At times, Cybertruck owners tried to circumvent the law by importing cars into the EU through small ports, or attempting to devise clever registration schemes. But even in these cases, a clash with bureaucratic obstacles was inevitable. The situation developed similarly in different EU countries. In Germany, France, Italy, and Spain, car owners also faced registration refusals and mass complaints about the inability to insure their vehicles, which called into question not only the future of the Cybertruck on European roads, but also the prospects for other Tesla models in these countries.
Well, you will hear people over in Europe say the new Model Y, the Juniper, could be a difference maker, but that's been in that market now for more than a month. And you would think that you would see a greater snapback if it's going to be a difference maker. Look, we could be wrong. It could be a difference maker once you get the sales for April, May, and June. But when you have a country like Norway, I think the sales were down something like 11% there. I mean, that's a very savvy EV consumer in Norway. And that's long been a strength for Tesla. Very small market, not huge volume, but I think almost all of the vehicles they sell there are electric. And they embraced Tesla long before others. And, you know, the reports there are not encouraging.
One striking example was the case in Berlin, where despite expectations, Tesla was unable to conclude import deals. Cars brought into the country were literally left in warehouses due to the lack of necessary documents. While Tesla employees themselves were unable to explain the situation, the company lost millions of dollars in import duties and a growing number of cancelled deals, as it later became known. The hidden problem was not only a legal issue, but also Tesla's economic obligations to its European partners, who began to doubt the profitability of this cooperation in the face of legal restrictions. This episode sent a signal to the entire automotive industry. Innovative cars, even with ambitious designs, cannot pass inspection if they do not meet all safety, environmental, and operational reliability standards. When the Cybertruck certification situation reached its peak, Tesla found itself at an impasse. No matter how hard the company tried to emphasize the uniqueness and unconventionality of the vehicle, legal problems left no chance for success. This scandal was a turning point for the entire automotive industry, as it demonstrated that, despite innovation and high technology, the automotive market requires manufacturers to not only be creative, but also to comply with basic standards that protect the interests of all road users.
Over the last couple of months. But the other thing that this could potentially be is an attempt at readjustment or correction by the Trump administration, in that one of Trump's closest kind of allies and supporters, and someone who's clearly very influential in the administration, is coming out to kind of push back against the recently implemented policies. So I'm thinking, or maybe hopeful is the right word, that this might be a signal that the administration is considering walking back some of those policies.
For the company, it was not just a financial blow. The most painful thing was that with the loss of these customers, it also lost the reputation it had worked so hard to build over many years. Against the backdrop of a sharp decline in confidence in the Cybertruck, Tesla faced an even more difficult problem: the loss of the very cult of innovation and breakthrough technology that it had so skillfully built. Tesla's entire marketing campaign was built on the idea that the company could make the impossible possible, that the Cybertruck was not just a car, but a revolution. But now that this revolutionary product had failed to launch in the world's largest markets, the destruction of their reputation was inevitable. A brand that was used to breaking down barriers and setting new standards found itself at the epicenter of a crisis caused not by technological problems, but by plain legal incompetence.
Canada, the largest supplier of steel to the U.S., slapping new tariffs on $20 billion worth of U.S. goods that are sold in Canada. And the 27 countries of the European Union imposing retaliatory tariffs on up to $28 billion worth of U.S. goods sold in Europe, including Harley-Davidson motorcycles and Kentucky bourbon. President Trump with the Irish Prime Minister visiting the White House today. The president suggesting his tariffs won't stop here, saying, "Of course, I'm going to respond." And tonight, right here, the new poll showing 56% of Americans disapprove of President Trump's handling of the economy. The number's even worse now on the president's tariffs.
When it became clear that Tesla was facing real problems not only in terms of certification, but also in terms of safety, questions arose on the international stage. How might this situation affect the company's future innovation? Meetings with regulators, negotiations with governments, and other efforts to resolve the issue required enormous effort and significant resources. Investors began to wonder whether Tesla would be able to maintain its status as an innovator, or whether it would be forced to change course and redesign its products to meet requirements that would limit its uniqueness. Meanwhile, despite all these problems, demand for the Cybertruck continued to grow in North America. The US market, where certification and requirements were significantly less stringent, remained Tesla's last stronghold. However, given the potential long-term losses in Europe and Asia, the company faced a dilemma: redesign the Cybertruck for international markets, or focus on creating a more suitable vehicle for the US that would not encounter such difficulties. These questions remained unanswered and continued to threaten not only Tesla but the entire automotive industry, where innovation often has to contend with strict regulatory standards.
We've accomplished more in 43 days than most administrations accomplished in 4 years or 8 years, and we are just getting started.
He praised all the domestic actions he has taken so far on immigration.
And I deployed the U.S. military and Border Patrol to repel the invasion of our country.
And spending cuts.
We are draining the swamp. It's very simple.
Thus, despite all the loud statements and advertising, Tesla found itself in a situation where innovation collided with the harsh reality of global markets. The decision it makes in the coming months will determine its future not only as a car manufacturer, but also as a global player in the field of technology and environmentally friendly solutions. Tesla faced an important choice that could change its future: abandon its global ambitions and focus on the North American market, or try to find a way to circumvent strict regulations by changing the design of the Cybertruck. However, each of these strategies was associated with huge losses. After much internal discussion, as well as pressure from shareholders and partners, it became clear that withdrawing from global markets could not only significantly reduce Tesla's profits, but also damage the company's image. Inspired by its philosophy of breaking old rules and forging new paths, Tesla did not want to accept this option as a final solution. That would mean abandoning the revolution it had once promised.
Worse than expected, 336 and 68 vehicles, 336,068 vehicles delivered in the first quarter for Tesla. For a point of reference, the street was expecting, the street account was expecting, based on analyst expectations.
However, by limiting itself to North America, Tesla risked losing its image as a company capable of conquering the world. Elon Musk has always emphasized that his goal is not only to change the automotive market, but also to promote electrification and technology on a global scale. By acknowledging that the Cybertruck does not meet international certification requirements and cannot be sold in major markets such as Europe and Asia, Tesla would essentially be abandoning its global mission. Given that Tesla still needed investment and support for further development, such isolation could have hurt its long-term strategy and even led to a drop in stock prices, which would have had negative consequences for the entire company.
Hey Diane, this investigation really just beginning, and one of the key elements will of course be the surveillance video, and investigators potentially have a lot of it to work with as they try to figure out what caused this fire. We know that surveillance footage has been turned over, including video from each of the cars, which could prove vital to understanding what happened here, because each vehicle has its own camera system that works even when the car is off, and 16 cars burned in this fire, and right now investigators don't know what caused it.
In addition, this strategy would have allowed Tesla to maintain its global ambitions and avoid long-term legal and financial difficulties in the future. On the other hand, such steps would have created additional challenges in terms of marketing and sales, as it would have been necessary to clearly separate the exclusive market from mass production. This approach made it possible to avoid compromises in design while retaining the unique features of the Cybertruck, which became its hallmark.
Tesla shares have slumped by more than 9% amid a fall in sales in Europe. The electric vehicle maker posted lower sales across 5 European countries, including France and the UK. Joining us now to discuss this is CBS News foreign correspondent Remy Inocencio. Remy, why do we believe these sales are dropping? What's driving that?
Sure. Well, Errol, basically what Elon Musk has been talking about over the past, say, few months, ever since Donald Trump's election back to the White House, that has been fueling this anger, this frustration, some even say disgust towards Musk, and they're taking it out on Tesla. Tesla now feeling the pain. But because of what's happening here in Europe, Tesla sales fell by nearly half across the continent just last month, 45%.
Meanwhile, Tesla's competitors did not stand idly by. Ford and Rivian took advantage of Tesla's difficulties to promote their own pickup models, which already met international standards. The attitude of the competitors was clear. They wasted no time and continued to develop their vehicles with a focus on the needs and standards of different markets. In doing so, they showed that it was possible to create a successful electric pickup truck in the future without losing uniqueness and meeting safety requirements. This allowed them to be flexible and adapt to the demands of international markets, unlike Tesla, which faced significant barriers.
After Trump imposed those sweeping 25% tariffs on aluminum and steel imports, the European Union retaliating with tariffs on up to $28 billion of U.S. goods. Trump making it clear this isn't over, vowing to respond in kind with sweeping retaliatory tariffs early next month.
They're doing what they should be doing, perhaps, for the European Union, but it does create ill will. And as you know, we're going to be doing reciprocal tariffs. So whatever they charge us, we're charging them.
Canada also striking back with new tariffs on $20 billion worth of U.S. goods, mostly steel and aluminum, but also computers and sporting goods.
Tesla's new strategy posed an important question for the company. What challenges would it be ready to face in the future, and what priorities would be most important to it? However, regardless of the path chosen, Tesla continued to remain a symbol of innovation and technological progress in the world. The Cybertruck certification issues in Europe were just one stage in a broader process in which companies have to balance progressive ideas with the need to comply with the global regulatory environment